Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guest careers to invaluable advice that fueled their success. We're here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Welcome to another episode of Protea Conversations, where we explore the insights from industry leaders shaping the world of accounting and finance. Today I'm joined by Tailor Hartman, founder and CEO of Satellarity Accounting, a firm specializing in fractional accounting and advisory services for 7- and 8-figure businesses using QuickBooks Online and NetSuite. The 2024 Top 100 QuickBooks Pro Advisor and accounting instructor, Tailor is passionate about demystifying finances for business owners, helping them move beyond bookkeeping to truly understanding their numbers. In this episode, we'll dive into his journey of launching a firm and evolving role of advisory services and the impact of technology on modern accounting. We'll also discuss the biggest financial challenges businesses face today and how accountants can become strategic partners rather than just service providers. If you're a business owner looking for financial clarity or an accountant seeking to grow in advisory, this conversation is packed with valuable insights. Let's dive in. Tailor, welcome.
Thanks so much, Zane. That was a really good intro and very thorough.
I try and embody the people that I'm talking to, and a lot of the time, the points that I'm trying to bring in are the things that excited me in the first place to reach out and ask people to speak. I try to cover that as much as possible, and I must say I've been really excited for this because, I'm a pretty newbie to the X world, where you're a bit of a pseudo-celebrity in that space. And I say that about anybody who has more followers than people they're following. That's sort of the dream right there. I've been very impressed following you on there, and it makes me realize how, one, old I am, and two, that I really don't know what I'm doing on that platform.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like no one knows what they're doing, especially these days after Elon's bought it. It's kind of like the wild, wild west. But I love it because you can just post whatever you're thinking about, even if it's 4 words, and you can get a reaction to it. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I must say I'm not the biggest fan of the insights because I'll push something away. I'm like, that was amazing. I'm like, 13 people viewed it. That's awesome.
I know. Yeah, and it seems like the less value you provide or the sassier your tweet is, the more views you get on it. But that's not obviously great for finding clients. So I haven't had a lot of client success on X, but it's fun interacting with other accountants on there for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of social media nowadays is pushed towards, do you have the hot take? And I'm not really the biggest hot take person out there.
No?
I've still got my beliefs and my values, and I talk about those in what I feel like is a pretty calm manner. So I'm just like, I'll just keep being the boring accountant in the back, trying to spread some good news and some cheer, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I feel good about it either way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that too. Like, I'm a millennial, and people I plan on working with, I look up their social media before I work with them. Mm-hmm. And if someone were to look up your Twitter, or your X, sorry, they would see exactly what you kind of stand for and how you do your work and the value you provide. So I think it gives a lot of good backup to the value you can provide for clients. So it's also probably useful, even though you don't get that many views right away. Somebody might look at that 6 months from now and that makes sense.
I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday about impact on social media, and I'm like, it really doesn't matter about impressions and views and all of that. It's sort of what is the impact you're making with those comments. Mm-hmm. And my goal is just to change somebody's view or make their lives a little bit better. And if I just do that for one person with every piece of content I put out, then I've achieved my goal.
Exactly. Yeah. Just providing information, providing value, putting it out there, and whoever sees it, sees it.
Great. Well, let's get a little bit more into it. And you're an accountant.
Yes.
The question is why? Why did you decide to go that route?
So I am a very non-traditional background person. I went to a 4-year to run track right out of high school, a state school, and hated it. I hated going to classes. I didn't like the track team very much, the people I was on the team with. So I decided to go back home and be a firefighter. at a 2-year school. So I started going to school to be a firefighter, and I had to take a finance class, a business finance class. I crushed it, and it was very encouraging for me. Through that class, I kind of decided that, similar to a lot of other people, I wanted a stable job and I wanted to make a lot of money. And people kind of turn to accounting, at least in the past, that's kind of the reason people went into accounting, was for the stability and to make decent money. Like I wanted to make $100,000 a year, and help businesses. I switched my major at the 2-year school to accounting, crushed it there, moved on to a 4-year, got my bachelor's degree in accounting as well, and then ended up getting my MBA and then CPA shortly after. So that's kind of how I transitioned into the accounting world.
That is definitely non-traditional. Let's start with the track team. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I ran a 100-meter and 200-meter dash. Still have my high school record, I think, in the 100-meter dash. But yeah, it didn't pan out so well in college.
As somebody is definitely be described as slow when I was in high school as a runner.
Yeah,
It's anybody who can actually run 100 meters and sort of do well is super impressive in my books, because I was not gifted with speed. I can run forever, but I cannot run fast.
now I've been doing endurance sports, and I wish I was more like you at this point in my life.
Well, sometimes I think it's because I'm not smart enough, so I don't feel the pain. That might be part of it.
Yeah, it's a funny way of putting it.
And then you want to become a firefighter?
Yeah, I think that boils down deep down inside of me. I have an urge to help people, and to me, firefighter was like the ultimate help people. Like you're helping them survive. You're, putting out a fire in their house to potentially save all their things, their children, pets, etc. So I think I didn't know what I wanted at that time, but I did know I wanted to help people. So it's probably why. And it was cool.
Yeah, as the father of young boys, any parent that is a firefighter, they're like, he's the coolest. Before I even meet them, like, he could be a total ass, but they don't care. He's got the greatest job in the world. So
Exactly. That or astronaut. One of those two things. It's coolest jobs.
yeah, astronauts do. I just don't know if they have the street cred as much as firefighters do. I think it's something to do with the truck that gives them a little bit of extra.
Yeah, and they're more down to earth.
Yeah, weirdly, we unfortunately, one of the firefighter paramedics was in our street the other night, and
Really?
we got a lot of old people on our street, so it happens. But it's bringing my kid home from gymnastics, and he was having a look at the track, and they saw him. It's like, come on over, come on in. And it's like 8:40 at night, and they gave him a tour of the track, gave him a hat, let him take pictures with them all.
That's amazing.
Just
That's
like,
so
I was like, and they didn't have to do that. You just dealt, like, they're paramedics, so nothing they get called for is great, right? And
right.
they sort of just jumped into it. So my kids think firefighters are this cool, and now they're like,
they're the best.
Stratospheric in terms of that ability.
Yeah.
But you decided to give that up to make the real difference in life, and that become an accountant and help people with their business. That's quite the career.
It is, yeah. I think part of me knew that it wouldn't be mentally challenging too to be a firefighter the rest of my life. So I wanted something that would challenge me a little bit more, and that it's holding true for sure. And even with accounting, like working for somebody else and then going to being the business owner now, is the challenge is the thrill for me. And it's kind of the reason I did this, was to, make it stay interesting. Because just doing accounting is great, but it eventually gets pretty monotonous doing the same thing over and over again.
Well, a lot of people say that is what accounting is, right? Just doing the same thing over and over again.
I know. Yeah.
As somebody who runs a business myself, I understand that that is not true in the slightest, and it's one of the big fallacies of accounting, that it's boring, repetitive work, and two, you never deal with people, which are both big lies that we need to push out of the past.
I feel strongly about the people thing for sure. Yeah, I agree.
It was a big shock to me as somebody who doesn't tend to like to spend a lot of time with people, that also have to deal with people every single day. But, we adjust.
We do. I have a lot of thoughts on that. I don't know if you wanted to jump into that or jump ahead, but yeah.
We can jump in straight into that.
Yeah, so I I moved from private accounting. So I had a couple private accounting jobs and then moved into public after that at BDO.
Yep.
And when I moved into public, the client-facing side was terrifying for me. I have a lot of social anxiety, or I originally did. Most of that's gone away at this point, but I was terrified of talking to clients. But now it's like my biggest strength. Relating with people, finding their pain points, and selling to potential businesses is by far like the most value I bring to my company right now. So I think it's really interesting that you are. It sounds like you started out in a similar way where you like didn't want to talk to people. You just wanted to probably do the work. That's exactly how I was. I did 1099s for the first like 6 months of my job, 99s and other tax forms, and it was comfortable, but I've had to grow a lot into talking with people and dealing with people a lot more. So that's interesting.
I can imagine. I mean, a move from public accounting to starting your own firm in March 2022, I'm sure is a lot of adjustments. But let's talk a little bit about that early career where you were in the private sector to start with. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so my first job was doing AP, my first accounting job. And I went and did that job part-time while I was in school still. And I actually worked the first 2 to 3 jobs I had while going to school at night to get my bachelor's degree and then my MBA. But my first job was just entering bills nonstop, 8 hours a day, and then scanning them in. So I've felt the pain of the manual accounting labor, and that was for a big manufacturing company. And then my big move, that was where I grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. And then I got a job in Madison where I'm currently at a restaurant group. And that was the big pivotal moment for me because I learned a lot of the full service accounting. So it was a team of, I think 4 or 5, and we had about 20 restaurants. And I did 8 of those restaurants' books monthly, trained their GMs on what cost of goods sold was, had to work with non-accounting people, and then also do all the bill pay, occasionally collections for like parties and stuff, and just learned a lot about general accounting and working with multiple businesses in one place. And I think that was really huge for me. And I had a really good boss there too, who's now the CFO of that company. She was a controller back then. And I find her name was Amanda, and she was really pivotal to my success. I still think to this day.
That's interesting. So you were basically still studying accounting, trying to learn what this all means and teaching people accounting at the same time. It's a great way to check your understanding, but I'm sure that was quite intimidating.
Yeah. And if you've worked with restaurants, I know you do wineries, but so wineries probably have point of sale systems. It was mainly showing point of sale systems and like explaining food costs and stuff like that. Yeah. So it wasn't like debits and credits, but
we had a small restaurant practice at a time, and even like seasoned people that had been in restaurants for 30 years didn't understand food costs. So I understand the pain in that explanation process.
Yeah. But it also was kind of fun. And I got to eat at the restaurants for free, which was the greatest perk when you're in your mid-20s.
Yeah, food's expensive and eating out even more expensive. So if you can have that for free, that's a good bonus, especially if you like the food.
Yeah, the food was great for sure. And I still eat at those restaurants.
Great, so that's a good sign. I'll get the name afterwards to if I ever find myself in Madison, I know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I spent a couple of years there learning everything about accounting, and then I moved onto a startup because I wanted mainly for more money. I think I was making like $30,000 a year at the first job, and then this was quite a pay bump. And I did accounting and kind of worked underneath the office manager at this startup where they built Bluetooth devices that track. I'm blanking on what it's called, like the code for Bluetooth. They would track that on your phone or your vehicle, and they would be lined up along the highway, and it would track how fast people are going.
Oh, like a speed over distance system?
Yeah. And they would sell that data like Waze or Google Maps. Yep. And I mean, it was a really cool company to work for, and the stuff they were doing was really interesting, but it was a startup environment.
Yep.
And I wore multiple hats. Like I was their supply chain person as well. So I managed all their inventory, purchasing. I would go count inventory in Chicago at their plant. And so I learned a lot about general business there. and then also about like getting your hands dirty and getting in there and like just solving problems, which I think is huge for me now. And it was a good experience, but also very stressful because they had cash flow issues and I had to track cash flow daily for them. That's how bad it was. And they were trying to sell the business for about 2 years. So we went through multiple failed sales situations, but it was really good experience, as you probably know. Like doing cash flow, that teaches you a lot about running a business and keeping a business afloat, which we do cash flow for a lot of our clients now. And it was a really good experience for that.
Yeah, I've been in those experiences where you have to do cash flows on a daily basis and effectively managing a $1 bank account.
And payroll and like sending checks instead of ACHs on purpose and stuff like that. Yeah, it was stressful, but it ended up working out. So I was there for, I think, 2 years. And because it was stressful, I left and I got a job at BDO, which originally was kind of like, I was non-traditional. So I didn't have the typical like go to a big four kind of situation. I wasn't like, they weren't recruiting at my small college or my night college. So I went to BDO as an outsourced accounting associate. And that's kind of where I really blossomed, I think, and learned the most about working with clients and relationships and general accounting. So I started doing the really basic stuff. And then somebody in Chicago, the Chicago office, got fired for whatever reason. And I was the person they wanted to give her clients to. And when I started working with the people in the Chicago office, I started working with more mid-market clients. And the more I took from the director or whoever I was working with, the more work they would give me. So that was essentially, by the end of my time at BDO, I was managing like $500,000 a year in revenue for BDO. And I had some of the biggest clients in their outsourcing department, which was very good for my confidence. And I also was helping them sell to potential clients and stuff like that. So it was like everything I did at BDO translated perfectly to what I'm doing now. So I'm just kind of doing what I was doing there for myself now.
I mean, that's a really crazy amount of experience in, it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. That's a ton of different industries, different roles, not just accounting roles, but business roles as well. And if people don't understand, $500,000 of outsourced accounting work is a ton of outsourced accounting work. It is a lot. It is a massive book for one person to manage. So a ton of good experience. Looking back at it, any regrets on the path you've taken to that point?
I think my only regret would be deciding faster that I wanted to be an accountant and maybe did the 4-year accounting background, but I don't think I would have ended up the way I am now. I think I have a lot more agency and I have a lot more down to earth, like get your hands dirty experience than I would have had I gone the traditional route. Sometimes I think the college route would be a regret, but otherwise, no, not really.
It is interesting and it is impressive. Anytime I hear somebody who did night classes to complete, I'm in awe because I truly believe if I didn't go the traditional straight to college, get my degree, I probably wouldn't have been here right now. I'm not sure if I had the true discipline. I was one of those guys where my parents always like, did you study? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you were home for an hour before we got home. We never, like, how? Like, I got it done. Don't worry about it. And they never worried about me. And I passed things and it was good. But
it worked out.
Yeah, but I was easily distracted. I always told people, like, everybody's like, are you a morning studier or an evening studier? I'm like, I'm a 1-hour studier. And if I can't get it done in that time, it's probably not that important. Not ideal for somebody who works and then wants to study at night. So I don't personally have the skill set. So I'm in absolute awe of anybody who's done that. And it's a difficult experience. And I'm sure there were some challenges doing that.
Yeah, I'm a procrastinator for sure. And I think I relate a lot with your 1-hour studying. That's how I was in high school as well. Like ace the test, but the homework's kind of like secondary, which you went to school in South Africa. Hopefully it's similar. I'm not entirely sure, but
yeah, I used to get to school a lot earlier than most people just because of proximity of getting dropped off, and I did a lot of homework in that hour before school started.
Crunch time. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I started out similar to that, I think, and then kind of had to, like, I was very motivated. I remember having like an intense desire to get my CPA and to really prove myself. So I really had to learn how to be more disciplined for the online school stuff. And it is, for those listening, it's a lot easier to cheat.
Yeah.
I did still learn, but I definitely cheated. And you know what's funny? I teach classes at that school, that 2 years college I went to now, accounting technology classes. So I teach QuickBooks to students in the same situation that I was in. And that's very rewarding for me.
That is amazing to be able to give back, and you can relate to those people as well because you've been in their shoes before. I during college I did a couple of they call them tutoring, where you sort of give take practical classes, and I had one class that was all people that worked, and it was in the evening, and I'd come out sun-kissed because I've been sitting in the grass outside the hall for 3 hours. It was very hard to relate to these people who had day jobs and were there to learn. They just want to give me as much information as possible. I want to move on when I get home. I got family to get to. So I think it would probably make a big difference in the ability to relate to them and get the information across to them and understand what they're going through.
I have so much respect for those people. That's tough. And they usually have kids at home too, which is even crazier.
I can't even imagine. I can barely get to a networking event in the evening because my kids are upset that I'm not around. So, it's, I don't know how people do it. I mean, obviously there's motivation behind it, and I'm just fortunate I wasn't that person, and I will be in constant awe of everybody who does that. So good job on finding the motivation to do that.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
You did say that you were trying to prove yourself by getting your CPA. What exactly does that mean?
Oh man, this is a big thing to unpack. But basically, I had a lot of external motivation, extrinsic, I think that's called. So I was comparing myself to a lot of other people who did go to the traditional routes back then, and they had the jobs that I was kind of hoping for, like working in public accounting or management consulting. I remember I used to want to be a management consultant as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really motivating for me. I started behind and I was catching up, and it was that's what kind of kept me going. And I set the goal when I was in my 2-year college to get my CPA, and there was not a lot of routes. There was one college that my credits would transfer from this tiny college to. Mm-hmm. And that's the college I went to, and I got the credits I needed to sit for the CPA exam. And then I got the remainder of my credits through my MBA, basically. Yeah. And I think that goal of getting my CPA that I set back at the 2-year college that took 4 or 5 years was that kept me going for a while.
Well, it is a great achievement, so you should be proud of yourself, and you proved them all wrong that you can get it done.
Yeah, we got it done.
Well, then in 2022, you decided, hey, I'm going to start my own practice.
Yes.
Talk me through what that decision looked like. How did you come to that decision?
Yeah, so I actually left BDO for a very short stint at a private company again. And I got bored so fast after working with tons of really dynamic companies and working in public accounting, and then going down to a really slow in-person, again, environment was really hard for me. So on the side, because I was really unfulfilled, I made an Upwork account, if you're familiar with Upwork, kind of like Fiverr. Mm-hmm. It's you post a job and then you hire consultants to help you with that job. Yeah. And I made an Upwork account, and I was like, I'm going to pay my student loans off just on the side, doing the work that I'm really good at, like cleanups and QuickBooks. I was thinking QuickBooks Desktop transitions to online or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I set up an LLC and a name just for that. I didn't have a web page or anything. And for 3 or 4 months, I would just work on the side after work or before work or on weekends or whatever, doing these little gigs. But then I started keeping them as long-term clients. So I would do a cleanup job, and it maybe was $1,000, $2,000, and I would fix their books in QuickBooks Online, and then they just want to keep working with me. They're like, hey, could we just do this? Could we pay you monthly and just keep the books for us, and we could talk about it? And I'm like, sure. How does $2,000 a month sound? And they're like, yeah, that's way cheaper than hiring someone. So I had that situation happen 3 times in the first couple of months, and then I had $6,000 to $8,000 a month lined up before even quitting. I eventually was like, this is so depressing working here. I can't do it anymore. I tried to fight for fully remote because I had a new puppy at home, and that's tough to leave. It was super cute. I couldn't leave it at home.
It's a great reason to stay home.
Yeah. And I was like, I just want to work from home and have some flexibility and do my own thing. And so I quit that job with about $6,000, $8,000 a month lined up, I think. And it was terrifying at first. I just wanted to survive. I just wanted to have enough money. My wife, fortunately, works for the state, which means we have really good benefits. I didn't have to think about that. That's usually something people have to think about in that scenario. But I just kept, for the first year, maybe 2 years, I think first year and a half, I just would find clients on Upwork. Like I built a website and I went to 0 networking events, nothing like that at all. I just kept working on Upwork, and then it just kept building. And then in the first year, I think I was over $200,000 in revenue just from Upwork entirely, which I think is pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then, now year 3, and we're recording this at the end of February, but year 3 is March 1st. So doing a lot more networking and stuff now, but in the beginning, it was entirely Upwork. I only talked to people on Zoom calls, and it was very lucrative. Just me.
And still just you?
No, it's counting me, we're a team of 6 now.
Okay. So that's a lot of growth in 2 years.
Yeah, we've doubled every year, which I'll know for sure. I like to go March to March, or end of February to March 1st to do my 12 months from the beginning, and I'll know for sure in a couple of days. But yeah, we pretty much doubled every year since inception, which is good, but it's challenging.
Well, happy birthday for Saturday. Protea turns 11 on March 1st.
That's so impressive. I think it's just impressive to have a business that supports you and other people for that long. So, amazing job.
Yeah, it's I got into it not expecting it to be a business, so I came in with a little less pressure. But 11 years later, and we're a team of 40 at this point, so it always blows my mind that that type of stuff happen. And I'll also I think we're going to be flat year on year, but we'll take it. The wine industry's struggling.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's so impressive. Before you did this, would you ever think that was possible for you?
It wasn't really on the radar at all.
No.
I went from public accounting where I thought I was going to become an audit partner.
Yeah,
I've been told that, probably not going to be an audit partner. You need to go to the consulting side. You're not good for recoveries. You talk to the clients too much. And then headed over to a private company. That was a listed company where I was fast-tracked, on the fast track to become the next CFO. But then my wife got an offer in the US and we moved here. And, 12 years later, this is definitely not the world or the life I was expecting. But I am super happy for the opportunities I've received, and I cannot be happier with where we ended up. Marin County, California is a pretty nice place to land.
Yeah. And I mean, you moved to another country and then started a business. That's like a whole nother layer of complexity.
Sometimes when you don't know what you're getting yourself into, it's a little bit easier. You sort of just wing it. I was saying to a colleague the other day, I wish I'd documented what I've done in the 11 years, properly, because I'm sure there's some decent knowledge and some stories that could help some other people. So maybe one day soon I'll take a sabbatical and try to relive through my emails and figure out what the heck we actually did to get here.
I would love that. I would read that book if you wrote a book on that. That's the coolest thing. I wish I did the same thing 3 years ago. I was super stressed. I remember that. The company I left, they saw that I set up that LLC and threatened to sue me because they thought that was a possibility, which if you know anything about law, I can moonlight. It wasn't even in the workplace guide or anything. So I was stressed.
And even if it's in the workplace guide, you just have to let them know and they can't do anything about it. So it's no big deal.
Exactly. Yeah. I think they thought they owned me 8 hours a day or something like that.
You don't build strong teams and lasting relationships by trying to dominate people.
Yeah. Wasn't ideal. So yeah, I was very stressed in the beginning, but it was all very positive. I think we all kind of have, I don't know about you, and I might be making assumptions saying we all, but accountants, in my experience, have a lot of negativity bias. We're always thinking about the future and what could go wrong and how to avoid risks. So I had a lot of I was oh, my clients are all going to leave me. I'm going to have to get another job. But in reality, we haven't lost a client because of our reasons yet. We've only lost clients because one has gone out of business in 3 years. So, I mean, all the logic points to positive things, but you really think all the negative things are going to happen most of the time.
Yeah, I think it can be a strength at times when you are thinking about what are the possible negative outcomes, because you can put in, plans to mitigate those negative outcomes.
Hmm.
So I always find it as a good portion, right? Like you can't do it. I mean, I'm very good at the game of like, let's take a scenario, turn it into a death outcome. Like,
Yeah.
I can find the negative in any situation as well. But I think it helps the decision making process, and I try to remind my team this as well. Like when a decision comes, I promise you it's been thought out because I have thought about all the possible reasons where this could go wrong or what negative
Mhm.
effects it could have on you, and
Yeah.
we're going to make the decision. And it was the best possible outcome that we could get from that situation.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. But there's got to be a balance for sure. I didn't have much balance.
Yeah, yeah. You got to rein it in a little bit, else
Yeah,
personal anxiety will get you.
for sure.
Is there any experiences from being in the private sector or working at BDO that you sort of took away and you said, hey, these are things I really would like to bring over to my business, and these are things I definitely want to make sure I never do in my own business?
Okay, so the positives, I think, were the relationships. And I think this is ultimately the biggest reason people like working with us is because we focus a lot on relationships. And I'm trying to keep all my clients for life, and I'm trying to keep them. We're trying to provide practical advice for them and give them really good advice, but we're also trying to partner with every single one of them. And we want to be like the closest thing we can be with boundaries as an internal employee or team as we can be, but yeah, keeping that boundary. So I think the relationship side, and that's kind of how I did it at BDO, was I really partnered with the clients and focused on the relationships, on the weekly calls, monthly calls, and like solving problems for them. I think that attitude brought over to Celerity is partially why we're successful so far. And that's kind of what I'm trying to build as a culture as well.
I think that is really great advice for people, that anybody who's trying to like do anything in the accounting space, you need to understand that the relationship clients or people have with their accountant is actually a very intimate relationship. They're
Right.
giving you a lot of details about their lives, and they're trusting that you're going to treat it well. And they do want to see you as a partner. Now, there's
Mhm.
obviously going to be out there that like, oh, you're just a resource. You're just here to do my work. Maybe those aren't a good fit for what you're trying to build. Well,
Right.
sometimes it's fine. You can have one or two of them as long as they don't, mess the pot up. As long as they pay their bills on time, we're all good.
Yeah. Those pay the bills for us. Yeah.
But when you do focus on relationships and creating a partnership, that's when you can start to truly add value,
Mhm.
and you make yourself sticky because people want to work with people that they trust. I see this all the time when like I'll run into a place and they're like, I know my accountant's not doing a good job anymore. I know they probably need to retire, but I trust them with my life. Like they
Yeah.
know everything about me, and I just cannot, pull that trigger to move on because I trust them.
Yeah. I think ultimately everything boils down to trust in what we do. Like I can focus on relationships. Sometimes it's technical trust. Like they're obviously super smart. Like my tax CPA is really technically smart. So I trust them. But for my clients, it's more like, yeah, we're good at the technical stuff, but it's like Taylor would, if I called him on a Thursday, Taylor would help solve this problem with me. And I
Yeah.
really like that our clients think of us like that. So yeah, and I think it does 100% boil down to trust.
Yeah, and one thing to remember is people expect you to know the technical part.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's you're walking in it. That is a minimum expectation, right? So you're never going to wow people with your technical expertise. I don't care how smart of an accountant you are. Like nobody's going to care as long as it's accurate. That's all they care about.
Exactly. And I think people would choose the person that they want to grab a beer with and also is good at the technical stuff and is also maybe a CPA over the
Mhm.
person that's like just going to show them number by number the financial statements or whatever. So, yeah, that's 100% right.
Any negative stuff that you decided you'll never do?
Oh, negative stuff. Ooh, micromanage as a boss. I think you have to trust your employees. And that one of the hardest things for me in my career before starting my business was being micromanaged. Um, and it just feels horrible. So 100% averse to that.
The
I
force in the
think
office seems to be a big deal.
going to the office.
Forcing people to work in the office.
Yeah, we're very flexible with that. And yeah, I would never force someone to come into the office at least 5 days a week, maybe a couple of days if they were local,
Hmm.
just to kind of build the culture. Because it's been a challenge to kind of build the culture I'm looking for and do it virtually. Like, it's kind of tough. I'm sure when I was at BD, I was like, oh, let's have a pizza party. And that's like, it makes everyone kind of cringe. And then during COVID, it was like, oh, let's do a happy hour and we'll just talk at you and like hope that you really build this culture that we're looking for through that. And it all didn't work very well. So it's been kind of challenging to find ways to build camaraderie and a culture and a teamwork kind of atmosphere while being virtual. But some of the people are local, and I meet up with them regularly for coffee, or like we'll come in for a couple hours and like knock some work out, which is really good. But yeah, the flexibility on when you work is huge for Celerity. All of the employees, except for me, work 35 hours a week. We don't do the 40-hour work weeks, so we're very flexible on that as well. And I think that's all based on my aversion to overwork, being forced to sit in the office for 8 hours a day, twiddling your thumbs.
Yep.
Like, I remember one story from that place I was at for 6 months. My boss, every time I go to his office to ask a question, he was playing like Angry Birds on his phone. And it's because we had nothing to do. We were forced to be in the office every day. And it was just so depressing for an ambitious person to be in that situation. So
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah, I agree. That was as tough as the last job I had in South Africa as well. I had to be in the office every day. And the first day of the month, I literally sat and paid bills and went on social media because I couldn't do my work until the accounting team finished their job. Now I try to fill it with meetings, so it would be more on the business side, like with my general manager. And
Right.
I'd fill it up there, but I couldn't do any of my work. Couldn't start it until the next morning because they needed to finish. And I was always like, I'm still happy to come in, but can I come in later? Can I come in after the traffic in the morning? Because I'm getting here at 6 because I'm missing traffic anyway. So, I'm here 12 hours a day most days. One day, you can just like, no, we got to set the example. This is a terrible example that we're setting.
Yeah. And the work would still be done if you worked from home that day, for sure. Like, it's not going to affect anything for them. You're still going to provide
nothing
the same
on that
value.
day that affected the outcome of our reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Business day for its listed company. Like, none of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that. I am very averse to that.
Well, you mentioned that you've grown, doubled each year since you started. So talk to me about scaling a practice. Like, how does that going? How do you feel about it? It comes with a lot.
Yeah, that's the most challenging part for me is when I bootstrapped this, I didn't like get a loan or anything. It just completely was like, I have $6,000 a month. I'm just going to use this to kind of build a business, and I'll pay for a website and whatever, whenever I have the money to do it early on. But yeah, I think for me, it was really challenging to get my mindset aligned with kind of the value like the potential that we had, I guess, is the way I'm thinking about it. So in the beginning, it was like, do I just stay? Like $200,000 is a ton of money to make for one person. I could do that. And I'm like in a medium cost of living location, and I could afford anything we needed pretty much with $200,000 a year. So I could have just stayed that size and did that forever, potentially got a new client once a year or something like that, and not grown. But so the first year I didn't really know what I was going for. So I wasn't really focused on scaling. I was just like, anytime a situation arose on Upwork or whatever, I would just take it and I would just deal with it. But eventually I kind of grew outside myself, and I found someone on Upwork to work with me. So I hired from Upwork too.
Oh, wow.
And she had like a bookkeeping certification, but didn't really have a ton of experience. So I would give her projects part-time, and she was really good at like data entry and doesn't like to talk to people like I do now. So she's really good at like the bookkeeping side of things, and she would crush it with all the projects. And eventually I just kept growing and hired her full-time in year 2, right in the beginning of year 2. And I think we were around 25,000 a month to 30,000 a month at that point in time. And yeah, we just around a year and a half in, or right after year 2 started, I just made the mental shift that I wanted to grow this and I wanted to challenge myself. And I was realizing that me personally, I was growing a lot as a person through building the business, and I wanted to keep that going and kind of see. I just consciously made a decision to see where I could take this. And if it doesn't work out, like I'm building a community and there's going to be 1,000 jobs I could take after this if I like blow this up somehow. So I just made this decision to scale at that point in time. And that's when I decided to hire another bookkeeper. And then in October last year, I hired my first controller level CFO person and another bookkeeper. So we basically have been scaling up steadily, or I would say pretty quick. Doubling every year is pretty quick, but it feels steadily for the last 3 years. And our goals this year are to bring on at least 2 to 3 clients per month. So we're kind of ramping that up in a big way now that I have a base of people to kind of send stuff to, and I don't have to do all the work myself. But it's been a challenge, I think, getting me out of the client work. The money part has been fine because, as you know, I have a lot of cash flow experience. So we've saved a lot of money throughout the last 3 years. We have a line of credit, but we haven't had to use it. The marketing, we've been trying email marketing. We've been trying all these things, and it's been super fun to kind of experiment. And the social media thing, like you said, has been kind of a joke, but I plan on doubling down on LinkedIn and Twitter a lot more this year too.
Well, it sounds like you're having a good time while you're doing it, which is great. Like it's, as a person who runs their own firm, I know there's some dark days, and I've definitely had days where I'm just like, I'm gonna burn it to the ground. Like I've had enough. It's over. But those are few and far between. Like most of the time, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have this notebook where I write ideas, and sometimes I see like the dichotomy. It's like I have these 5 ideas, and I'm like super inspired, and then like the next day, it's like, what happens if I get like sold the business or like blew this up? And then like right after that, it's like, oh, these 5 social media posts I should do. So yeah, it's definitely up and down. And there's a lot of stress, but it ends up being worth it pretty much always. In December, we started doing team calls because we're actually big enough for that now, I think. And then we did one-on-ones. Right after that team call, I remember in December when I was at Digital CPA, and 3 of the bookkeepers that work with me said this is the best job they've ever had. And I think that it's so rewarding to be able to help support people flexibly, so they can like raise their kids and go. I make up words all the time. So they can go to like their kid's soccer game, and drop their kids off at daycare or whatever, and then still come back and get the work done and provide that value. So I think for me at this point, the value I can give to my employees and the value I can give to my clients, that's kind of the why. And I didn't really know that until recently. Like it was just felt like we were winging things until very recently. But yeah, now I feel like we're very aligned culturally with where we want to go. And it took a long time to really know and feel confident with what we're doing.
That's great. Having a why is always helpful. Making people's lives better, which is sort of where you started this all off with the intent to be a firefighter. It sort of seems like it's come full circle, and you're achieving that goal.
Yeah, now I'm an accounting firefighter, putting out client fires all the time. So
I like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned you teach QuickBooks Online at the college. So I'm assuming you are pro technology?
Pro technology. Yes. I think our firm provides a lot of value, and we're profitable mainly because of technology. So we're all very tech savvy people, all the people that work with me. We automate as much as possible. We use a lot of different apps. We use existing tools. We're not like developing things, but yeah, you would be surprised how many clients or potential clients are like doing things manually still, even in QuickBooks Online, where you could make a bank rule or a couple bank rules and it would save them 10 hours a week.
Or just connect the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Or even connect the bank. So I have like 1,000 examples of clients who think that they need a full-time person, but we can come in for 2,000 or 3,000 a month, and we only spend 5 to 10 hours a month, maybe at the most, and completely replace that person's job through technology. So yeah, I love technology, and especially I would say QuickBooks Online and NetSuite. That's kind of where we focus. And I like QuickBooks Online because they have an ecosystem of apps that we can connect with. And I like NetSuite because I have a developer that can basically develop me anything that we want to automate. And it's crazy the stuff that this guy can do. But yeah, that's really, when I left BDO, that was really my idea when I first started the business was, hey, I know I can do the work for a team of people through these automations that I've learned at BDO or whatever. And I know that there's a big gap there and a lot of potential. So yeah.
Outside of QuickBooks Online and NetSuite, is there a favorite piece of technology or app that you're using that everybody should be considering?
Oh man, I really like Ramp. I think Ramp is great, and they're doing a lot of really cool stuff. And no doubt you've seen them on social media because they're everywhere right now. But I think the way that they have the credit cards, the bill pay, the approvals, it's so easy to sell that to your clients, and it saves so much time for our clients and us. So I really like Ramp. And then I would say also Accruer. I don't know if you've heard of them, with FinOptimal. They're pretty cool too. And I'm finding that you can just type in a couple of words and fully automate accrual basis accounting. So you can take something that's cash basis and make it accrual basis with like a few adjustments to what a bookkeeper is doing. So it's pretty cool.
Taylor, tell me, what are your goals for the business in the short?
My goal for the business is a little bit basic, but we're trying to hit 1 million this year. And the goal is to hit $83,333 per month, monthly recurring revenue by end of June. So that's our money goal. And then the goal is to also build the team by 2 people for Celerity this year. And like I think I mentioned, 2 to 3 clients per month. So we have a big difference between small and big clients. So it's hard to put a number on exactly how many clients it'll take to get there, but that's kind of the business goal. And then also, maintain the quality. And I think that's the hardest part with scaling and actually running a good accounting firm is taking on new clients, but maintaining the level of quality with existing clients and making sure everyone gets the value that they deserve. So that's kind of been a challenge. And then you said personal goals as well?
Yeah, I'd love to hear some personal goals.
Yeah, I want to move away. We've lived in Wisconsin our whole lives, and me and my wife, we've kind of had this dream. And I think in the next year, our goal is maybe to move away and try living somewhere else. And you're like a great example of this. You moved really far away. And that's a long flight home to see family, obviously. But yeah, we would love to live in the mountains or near the mountains because we love to hike.
Any target area that you're looking at, or not quite decided yet?
We have a lot of places. Vancouver, Canada, but that's almost impossible as a business owner to move to unless you have a big investment. I love the Northern Cascades. The mountains there are so beautiful. And then Idaho. My wife is actually interviewing. She's a biologist, wildlife biologist. So she's interviewing out there tonight.
A lot of mountains in Idaho?
Yeah. Yep. Tons of mountains.
Got to catch up on my geography a little bit.
It's not very well known.
Yeah.
And it's really only in the northern part of Idaho, but beautiful mountains out there.
From this conversation today, it's clear to me that you've, through some dedication, some positive attitude, with some great values, you've had a lot of success. Is there any piece of advice that you received along the way that sort of helped you drive yourself towards that success?
Yeah, I don't remember who told me this, but I almost want to get this tattooed because I feel so strongly about it. But it's the way I simplify this is it's always your move. And I think if you think like that, like as a business owner, from firsthand experience, like no one else is going to do it for you. And I mean, unless you hire people to do it. But like if something needs to be done, it's always your move. Like it's not going to just happen. And I think a lot of people, especially in traditional careers, like they're told what to do every day. They know exactly what they need to do, but there's not a good emphasis on movement, I guess. And I am always trying to embody like my own personal agency. Like if something needs to be done, I have to just make it happen or do it, or I can't just sit around and hope that it happens. So for me, that's been the biggest thing. And I didn't know it, but I was kind of embodying that, through the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's great of us. Sort of, I have it in the way that this is my only life I have, so I'm going to take it by the scruff of the neck and take control of it.
Yes. I love that. That's a good one.
Taylor, any advice for anybody, the younger people listening to this, thinking about becoming an accountant or entering the accounting career? Any advice for them as they get started?
Yeah, I would focus on technology and focus on relationships. I think this might be a hot take. It might be a good one for Twitter, but I think the debits and credits aren't as important anymore. The technical small stuff for accounting, the software does most of it. As long as you know how to use the software, you can pretty much do anything. Understanding it is important too, right? But I think I would focus, if I could go back in time and focus earlier in my career on talking to people and relationships and being likable and being really comfortable with technology. I think to a new grad right now, that's probably the most important two things to focus on.
That's really great advice. Anything you want to tell us about you on the personal side that would add a little bit more color? You have shared a lot today, but anything else that you want to share so we get to know Tailor the person a little bit better?
I like a personal thing. I mentioned the hiking and we talked about track, which is really strange that came up, but I love it. I am secretly a photographer, I guess. And I have a creative side to me, which I don't think many people know about. And I think everyone probably should have a creative outlet in some form or another, but mine is landscape photography. And I've been secretly featured in a couple of calendars and stuff.
Wow.
So that's a weird fun fact.
That's amazing. That is
a
great fun fact. Tailor, I really appreciate your time today. We like to end Protea Conversations with some rapid-fire questions. So I have 5 questions for you if you're ready.
Sure.
Great. Number 1, what's your dream vacation?
Patagonia. Hiking for like 14 days.
Nice. 2, do you prefer audiobook or paper books?
Paper books, but on my Kindle.
Fair enough. What are you reading right now?
I'm reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. It's very nerdy.
I have no idea what it is, so
it's fantasy. It's epic fantasy. It's he writes a lot of like 1,000-page fantasy books.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Might give it a look. It might be a little bit beyond my capabilities right now as I get into the fantasy world, but I'll take a look. If you have only 20 minutes to exercise, what exercise would you do?
Ooh, that is such a great question. Powerlifting. My wife and I do powerlifting workouts every week, and I love strength training. It's very rewarding.
Question 4. What is your favorite piece of technology that makes your life better?
Favorite piece of technology that makes my life better? Probably my iPhone. Yeah, I can communicate with anyone at any time. Go on an app, check notifications, respond to emails. Probably my iPhone.
It was a great choice. Last question. When you think back on your childhood, what was your favorite meal growing up?
My favorite meal? Roast beef in a crock pot with like the potatoes and the carrots and everything all kind of like cooked together. And then it's honestly kind of gross, but it's like all mushy and you can like mush it together and then put A1 sauce on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lost me a little on the A1 sauce, but the rest sounds really good.
That's growing up. I cook a lot now and I would probably make a gravy, but like A1 sauce was the move back then for sure.
I love it. Tailor, I really appreciate your time today and you sharing so much about your story with us.
Yeah, no problem. It was very fun.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today we've gained insight from our guest and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence, embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.